Germany in 1923 be like. German World War II scientists, after hearing they only need to help the US get to the moon to not face charges. Anti-vaxxers when they find out the bubonic plague eventually went away. After the first two pandemics ravaged North Africa and Eurasia, and the 3R was stopped by a vaccine. Westerners, damn it's sad that Bangladesh is so poor. I wonder why they haven't grown like India and Myanmar, Pakistan. Mercy dogs were often sent out after large battles in World War I, where they would seek out wounded soldiers. I promise. They carried first aid supplies that could then be used by wounded soldiers, and comforted dying soldiers who were mortally wounded. I won't cry. Americans wanting to downplay or remove historical and ongoing racism in education because it teaches kids to hate their country are the exact same as Germans, Japanese, Chinese and Turks downplaying the Holocaust, Nanjing Massacre, Tiananmen Square, and Armenian genocide because they want their country to look better. Italians in 1943. Bolsheviks pulls up to a random elderly peasant, wants some beets. Peasant, yes, hops in. Bolsheviks, you're going to negotiate peace with the Germans. Peasant becomes the first and only confirmed person in history to get hit by a freaking meteorite. Survives with just a bruise. Fights her landlord for ownership of the meteorite. Greedy bastard thinks it belongs to him cause it landed on his property. Wins the custody battle. Donates the meteorite to the Alabama Museum of Natural History without receiving any payment. Dragons in European mythology. Dragons in Asian mythology. My mom, her Dutch friend, me wanting to ask if her ancestors ate the PM. Poland, 1932. Good thing we signed non-aggression pact with Soviet Union. Soviet Union, 1939. Simon is called Simon. Jesus, hello Peter. Samurai mask, meant to be ugly, frightening and demonic. Meanwhile Balkan people. So you want to sell Alaska for $7.2 million? Yeah, I can't defend it, and it's quite useless anyway. Oh wow gold. Oh wow oil. Oh wow anti-ballistic missile. Blight. Pop culture. Vikings. Other cultures accused of only stealing, destroying, and raping other peoples. Mussolini, I need a political headquarters for my fascist party, something that can inspire fear and intimidation in my citizens, whilst also making me look like a badass. Architects say no more fam. Dante Alighieri describing each of his enemies, burning in the inferno. Guy Fawkes choosing an alias before blowing up Parliament. Carefully choosing a normal sounding name that would not arouse suspicion. John Johnson. The Nazis try to dismantle the death camps and hide their crimes. The Allies showing up with Kodak 620 cameras. Caught Yo in 4K. Arab soldier, sir, we left a little mountain range unconquered to the north. Arab general, so what? That's populated by 200 people at most. What's the worst that can happen? Anne Frank's diary in 1942 to 1943. Here is a list of people in my school who I can't stand. Got this old man I have to share my room and desk with is awful. I hate my mother. Peter is so cute. Anne Frank's diary in 1944. I've asked myself again and again whether it wouldn't have been better if we hadn't gone into hiding, if we were dead now and didn't have to go through this misery, especially so that the others could be spared the burden. But we all shrink from this thought. We still love life, we haven't yet forgotten the voice of nature, and we keep hoping for everything. John Lennon after managing to become an icon for equality and peace whilst abusing his wife and kids. British government outlaws virtually all guns for civilians. Philip Lutti inventing scrap metal submachine guns in his garage and publishing a book on how anyone can do it out of spite. And I took that personally. During World War II, 3 Italian POWs held at a British camp in Africa decided to escape just to climb Mount Kenya, the second highest mountain in Africa, because they were bored. After completing their goal they simply returned to the British camp and handed themselves over. The 3 Italians. I see no god up here, other than me. Making or buying a new pistol to replace the old one. Using the same pistol for 100 years. Infrastructure exists. General Sherman. And I took that personally. Choose one side. Pro-industrial revolution. Anti-industrial revolution. English kids in history class. Are we the badders? German kids in history class. Are we the badders? Swedish kids in history class. Denmark, Norway, Russia, Poland are the baddies. Chinese kids in history class. We are the gooders and always has and always will, and nothing happened at that place at that time. New Zealand. Behold, a tank. Otto von Bismarck had a voice recording done. He spoke English and recited the Marseillaise. I don't give a frick. I love being sexually independent, and I'll sleep with as many men as I want to. Cope. So you fricked a horse. TFW spoke 7 languages, were educated in mathematics, philosophy, oratory, and astronomy, and built Egypt's economy by establishing trade with many Arab nations. But all modern historians talk about is how hot you were, and those 2 guys you slept with. Historian kids, when the exam is about summarizing the Mesopotamia civilization instead of naming every tank's planes in World War III. R. Kelly in the 90s picking up teenage girls, marrying a 15-year-old. Literally every responsible adult in his social circle. Starting a war over complex political reason. Starting a war because someone fricked with your boat. When you prove to Europe that the Americans are not Asia, but a new separate continent, get to entire continents named after you completed 3 successful voyages to the New World, and barely anyone knows your name. Well frick. Some French guy gets offered the French throne in 1870. He refuses because the assembly refused to ditch the tricolour for the white Bourbon flag. Napoleon Bonaparte after returning to France from Elba, Big is back in town. How would you change history if you could time travel? Me. There will be this really cool indie rock band in Scotland named after you, and their songs will be absolute bangers. Wow, that's great. Nice to hear my legacy will have a positive impact. When you've only existed as a country for 31 years, but you've had a seat in the UN for 77 years. These are confusing times. Things that disappear when you need them most. Keys, wallet, phone, the Allies. Chops off your head. The French. Using a machete to cut off your hands. Belgians. Cuts off your penis. Then sell it for 25 cents. The Dutch. Mark Antony gets seduced by Cleopatra and rebels for her. All of Rome. SIM card. Queen Anne dies with no children and heirs. 50 Catholic claimants to the throne. Nobles, when the king dies, and they sense an opportunity to increase their influence by raising a weak puppet to the throne. Casually approach child. when you become one of the most beloved figures of English history, despite not even speaking the language, and only living there for 6 months of your 10-year reign. Royalty. Neanderthals. We have a larger body mass, more muscles and an increased sense of awareness. What do you have? Homo sapiens. We specialize in ranged attacks with slingshots on throwing spears. It's better than using axes and clubs like you do. Neanderthals. Well frig. Almost all your military died, and Germany is slowly taking over. Panic. You elect Pétain, because he's an excellent general. Calm. He surrenders and starts a dictature. Panic. You send Bolshevik revolutionaries to destabilize your enemy Russia. They kill your right cousins and their children. Wife fails to deliver a male heir. Henry VIII, you have lost head privilege. Japan. Bombing China with conventional bombs. Japan. Bombing China with fleas infected with the bubonic plague. The relationship between England and France in a nutshell. Hey, France, look at me. Hey Phil, did you know that kids living in apartments aren't getting enough fresh air and sunlight? Dang, you're right, Jim. Hey, I have an idea. Did you know that Bulgarians replaced a statue of Lenin in the middle of their capital with a statue of death? Before. After. I'm a European queen who spent 9 months being pregnant and almost died from an agonizing labor, only to be told the baby is a girl. This is fine. Apologize for your war crimes. Deny your war crimes. Justify your war crimes. Embrace them. Napoleon Bonaparte's second wife was Mary Louise, who was the grandniece of Marie Antoinette, making Napoleon the grandnephew-in-law of Louis XVI. Armor of a soldier wounded by a cannonball at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. The soldier. 'Tis but a scratch. Post-World War I German storekeepers, after selling 1 loaf of bread. Camibus, when you tell them that the T-34 had just as many mechanical problems as German tanks. Confused scramming. When I'm in a mass killing competition and my opponent is a Chinese guy. MFS. Throughout history I'm going to treat my wife like shit because she gave birth to a girl and not a boy. Genetics. Men determine the sex of a baby depending on whether their sperm is carrying an X or Y chromosome. But that violates the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That's not allowed. The country violating the UDHR while knowing it is not a legal document. Russia, China, USA. Hitler with Jews, gays and other minorities. Hitler with lobsters and crabs. Look daddy, I left my handprints all over the living room wall. Just like the people in Cuba de las Manos during the late Pleistocene period of pre-Columbian South America. Zeus showing affection to all of his sister's kids, just in case they grow up to be beautiful too. Toyota when they receive an order from an unnamed organization in the Middle East for 700 pickup trucks. It's just good business. Top 4 Hugo Boss products everyone remembers. Historical movies with historical cultures, clothing, arms, armor, tools, personalities, and events. I Sleep. Historical movies with black actors. Real sheet. Order the creation of the largest trebuchet ever made, the Scots surrender, before you can use it. You do not deserve any grace, but must surrender to my will. Stop scrolling and take a moment to appreciate Joseph Ducroux, the 18th century portrait painter, who is indirectly responsible for several internet memes. When you invent the cakewalk dance, to make fun of white people. When white people, unironically, cakewalk to make fun of black people. Getting partitioned. Just say no. The Entente legally cannot take any of your possession without your consent. When you attack Poland and are winning the war, but then they counterattack and destroy your entire offensive in one battle. Egyptian deities have a predominant role in religion for centuries. Akhenaten in 1348 BC. I'm about to end this man's whole career. Common opinion, the USA ruined the Middle East, Britain and France. European town that hasn't been looted and pillaged yet exists. Viking. We have lost nearly every battle in this war. A vastly larger and professional British army is marching to try and take New Orleans. All we have to oppose them is some militia, freed slaves, Indians, and pirates. There is no hope. Minutes later. OMG General Jackson, we can do this. When you're a Buddhist monk, but you live in Japan Sengoku period. I'm a healer, but the 12 labors of Hercules. The reasons why he did the labors. Scandinavians being one of the most tolerant and friendly people on earth and mostly atheist. Scandinavians having powerful empires and fighting each other while worshipping God. Scandinavians being the absolute nightmare of Europe, raiding, killing, abducting, and worshipping the almighty Allfather to get into Valhalla. Painters, painting kings and the wealthiest beautiful and idolizing them. Diego Velázquez. I'm gonna do what called a pro gamer move. Wi-Fi drops down by 1 bar YouTube video quality. Wi-Fi. When a beautiful girl comes to your house and your parents tell it's your cousin. But then you remember that you are a Habsburg prince. James Polk when he sees more Mexican land he can steal. Nazi rocket scientists, we'll help you go to the moon as long as you grant us immunity from prosecution for our war crimes. The US. Okay, fine. So I told Murat to charge the 11,000 strong cavalry reserve and break the Russian center. He actually did it, the absolute madman. Haha. Calmly reaching for my bottle of cyanide as the judge asks what I've done during 1991 to 1992 Yugoslav wars. Me. Nazis don't speak English. Mom, how do you know? Me. Soviet Union collapses. Virtually every ethnic and or religious minority in the Union. Joan of Arc. All they know about me is I was burnt at the stake. Marie Antoinette. They made up a quote about me after my death. That makes me look uncaring to starvation. What about you, Kate? What do they know about you? You invade a third world country. They start fighting back. You lose the war. We actually won. It's just that we got bored. Becoming Muslim because you believe that Muhammad is God's last prophet. Becoming Muslim to not pay as many taxes. Hitler when questioned on military design principles. 1939 colorized. Blah. Science. Bigger. Croatian ultranationalists when they see someone writing in the Cyrillic alphabet. You mind if I use this scalpel to poke a hole in your head? You seem a little Serbian. No, you can't accuse the government of something or criticize it. The last elections were rigged and the fascists were corrupted by the Sinclair oil. Now prepare a speech for my funeral. The British public in the late 1800s reading a fun little story about Martians creating a huge world war and invading Britain. The British 14 years later. Naming the colony after yourself. Naming the colony after your dad who has the same name. The crew of the CSS Hunley boarding a submarine they know damn well They are going to freaking die in. Taos Native Americans asking Richard Nixon for the return of the Blue Lake land that was stolen from them by the US government in 1906. That's outrageous. Done.
If you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe for your daily dose of memes. Also, be sure to watch previous MemePog episodes. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you back tomorrow.